Ilia Topuria, who's fighting Charles Oliveira at the end of the month. Like, that guy is insane. That guy's knocked out two of the greatest featherweights of all time, Volkanovski and Max Holloway. Nobody could knock those guys out in featherweight before, and he did it. But I like what you were saying, Topuria versus Oliveira.
Your first introduction at 55. He's kind of the,
Oliveira,
king
so
of 55
tall
and dangerous.
So dangerous everywhere. Dangerous striking. Huge reach advantage.
Yeah. But if you're Topuria, you're not going to go up to 55 without some sort of guarantee. Because remember, he's giving up the belt, so he's not getting pay-per-view points.
But it's his idea.
Well, because the weight cut's too tough.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan has called out Ilia Topuria as one of the greatest fighters in UFC. He also warned that Ilia is the biggest threat to the whole lightweight division right now.
He made it look like they're like he's just on another level from everybody. And then now he's moving up to 155 pounds. He's like decided he cleared out that division. He's moving up. Like, he's
insane. Yeah.
Insane. There's guys like that are just their level is above everybody else's level. And with Ilia, it's everything. It's his submissions, his kicks, his punches, everything. He can do anything. I mean, he does everything perfect. All his technique is perfect. And he's driven and ultra confident.
Now, UFC fans can expect some shocking news. Firstly, Islam Makhachev's coach, Javier Mendez, recently revealed that if Islam successfully defeats Jack Della Maddalena at welterweight, a potential showdown with Ilia Topuria could be next for him. Mendez said Ilia is a tough, dangerous, and highly skilled fighter, making him a worthy challenge for Islam.
What do you make of people with these conspiracy theories of, oh, well, Topuria will move up to welterweight and fight Islam? Like, could you see a scenario where Topuria comes up to 170 to fight Islam?
Yeah. Why not? But,
you can see
Topuria,
that.
Topuria's
He's like 5'7", Javier.
Yeah, but he still doesn't change his stature when it comes to Islam. Same opponent, So it's going to be the same amount of weight. I mean, got to remember one thing. Even though, it doesn't look good in people's eyes when Islam was fighting another featherweight, but in actual weight, Topuria is pretty heavy. Listen to his interviews. He's talking about what a struggle it is for him to make featherweight, so that's why he wants to go up. So he's a big guy. He is a big guy. He's not tall, but he is wide, and he's very muscly. So the guy is a pretty good-sized guy.
Ilia Topuria's dream to fight Islam may not be fulfilled, as he has only 3 fights left. Islam will choose his next opponents wisely. He will carefully select fights that align with his goals and legacy. After a big win, like the one against Jack Della Maddalena, he will certainly be matched with top contenders, like Ilia Topuria, but it will always be intentional, as he will be fully aware in this stage of his career what is best in terms of maximizing ownership over the remaining fights to prove what he wants to demonstrate.
I'm anticipating, yes, I'm anticipating we'll see him for hopefully another 3 fights total. Let's see who's in the works on that, and let's say if we get by JDM, which is I don't want to really say we're gonna get by him because this he's a tough customer, and I'm gonna be positive in the fact that we're gonna win, but it's kind of hard to overlook JDM.
Islam Makhachev is on a mission to conquer the welterweight division, and most people believe it will be nearly impossible. Dominating the lightweight division isn't enough now. He has an entire division chock full of killers with a size advantage and world-class wrestling. Going up in weight isn't just about power. It's about being able to survive the power, speed, and pressure that exists at a higher weight class. The thing about Islam is that he is not just any fighter. He is a calculated, relentless weapon who believes he can break anyone in any weight class. If he manages to take welterweight, it would not just be a win, it will be legacy making. But make no mistake, fighting welterweight is a near impossible mission.
So clearly Islam is a big deal, right? He carries a lot of weight, which leads to a lot of stories, and people are talking. People inside his circle are talking now. Umar Nurmagomedov was speaking today and said that Islam never wanted to vacate his championship at 155. He doesn't want to give up that belt and hopes to move back to 155 after he becomes the world champion. Look, I get it, and I understand the intention, but the truth of the matter is, it's very hard
Former fighter DC revealed that Umar Nurmagomedov spoke openly and said Islam doesn't want to vacate his lightweight title. His goal is to go up, win the welterweight belt 170 pounds, and then return to lightweight if possible. But DC was realistic. He said that the way Islam cuts weight, it is miserable, and once you've gone through all the pain of making your weight as a world champion, it is understandable that it would be difficult to go through it all again.
I find it very difficult, especially after watching Islam in a lot of those weigh-ins he's had recently, him wanting to starve to go down to 155 if he is to become the world champion at 170 pounds.
DC believes the biggest story of the week around Islam isn't just about him moving to welterweight, it's the fact that Islam and Kamaru Usman seem open to fighting each other, despite being from the same close-knit circle under Dominance MMA and Ali Abdelaziz.
Javier Mendez, Islam's coach, also said that he feels Kamaru Usman is as close to anyone else in terms of who Islam may fight if he is to become champion. I say if Javier and them believe Islam will definitely become champion, even though we saw how great Jack Della Maddalena looked in his fight against Bilal Muhammad. Great. Kamaru Usman will fight Islam. Great. Islam's getting that title fight against Jack Della Maddalena. I imagine that's going to be somewhere in the late fall, early winter, maybe Madison Square Garden, maybe that end of the year pay-per-view in Las Vegas. There are many cards for him to fight, but I think it'll fall in line with one of those last couple fight cards of the year.
It's hard to believe, but Islam's coach, Javier Mendez, revealed that Islam could potentially only have 3 fights left in MMA, and that will start with Jack Della Maddalena. That is why DC urges people to focus their energy on this preceding fight. The thought of another dominant champion nearing the end of his career is tough to bear. Islam is still young, still dominant, and striving for greatness. Why does it feel like its time could be short-lived? DC admits, as a fan, it's sad we are in an era where the best fighters don't last long, and while there will be new stars in the next generation, it is sad to see the legends that introduced fans to MMA begin to go away.
Javier Mendez also said, though, that Islam Makhachev might have 3 fights, including Jack Della Maddalena. That right there is where our energy should be spent as Islam fans. How in the world does it feel like another dominant champion may be saying it's about time? Why? He's young. He's the world champ. He's dominating. He's getting an opportunity to become a double champ. Why do we have to look at that again? I think that we are in a time right now in fighting that, for me as a fan, is very sad. I don't believe for a second, though, that it's going to change. I think there will be new guys that will ultimately step right in line with where those guys leave. The Michael Chandlers, the Justin Gaethjes, the Charles Oliveras. There will always be another guy.
So yes, Islam may only fight 3 more times, and every single one of those fights will matter more than ever, because we might be watching the final chapter of another all-time great.
It's scary to me, because I know, knowing these guys, if he says, I've got 3, and he stands that he has 3, if he ever comes out and says he has 3, the only saving grace right now is that someone else is saying it for him, and he has not said that himself. If Islam comes out and tells us, I've got 3 fights left, we should all go, man, we got to lock in. Because you know that it's a special time, right? It's a special reign that Islam has created at 155.
Islam's coach, Javier Mendez, said Islam isn't afraid to stand and fight with Jack Della Maddalena. He asserts that welterweight is not a difficult division for Islam to compete in, and focuses on the confidence and ability he has to compete at 170 pounds. Mendez said Islam's move to welterweight is further evidence of his willingness to compete against the best challengers, and can even demonstrate his ability to compete in the higher weight division without any issues.
What do you think is the key here for Islam as he moves up to a higher weight class? Because it's almost like you don't want to put on too much weight, right? Because you don't want to lose too much speed, and speed is an advantage as well when you're smaller moving up. But at the same time, you want to put on a little bit of size. Like, what's your mindset when an Islam Makhachev moves up to welterweight?
Well, for him, being the fact that, he's going up to welterweight, and he was actually fairly good sized lightweight as it was. He was on the bigger side of the lightweights. So I don't think this is going to be too big of a jump for him, to be honest with you. It is a jump, obviously, because come fight time, Jack is going to be heavier than us, but not by a big wide margin. You know, I think he's okay here. I think if we ever decide to go to middleweight at some point, I think that's going to be a big hurdle. But I don't think welterweight is going to be that big of a hurdle for him.
According to Islam's coach, Javier Mendez, Islam doesn't have many fights left in his career, so he will choose his next opponents with much thought. After the win against Jack Della Maddalena, Islam might fight Ilia Topuria as one of his last big fights. Mendez stated that Islam wants every fight to be special and every opponent he faces to be a memory before he eventually goes away for good.
Well, it's interesting because Kamaru Usman, he said his plan is to fight Islam and then move up to middleweight and fight Dricus du Plessis. Do you think that there's a possibility that before it's all said and done, Islam could move up and fight for a third belt if he does get the second belt and defends it a couple of times?
Yeah, I'm trying to get this stupid camera lined up right. I keep screwing up. I don't know how to do this thing, but
you're doing a great job. Don't worry about it.
I think the Plessis is, I think that's just another, I don't know. I really don't want to anticipate what could happen there because that's a lot of what ifs, Islam is actually 34 too, or gonna be 34.
Islam Makhachev's goal is clear. He wants to become a double champion. The welterweight title will be the second division he conquers while holding the lightweight title. Her team, as well as many people surrounding her, believe that once it is achieved, he may retire at the top of her game. In short, Islam wants to create a legacy as one of the greatest fighters by simultaneously owning two divisions and retiring.
So it isn't like he's really going to be around much longer, I don't think, based on how the Dagestani guys, the mentality on Team Habib, is, and Islam having enough money to do what he wants to do the rest of his life. So let's see, the challenge is more for me, it's being able to get a legacy going for him, and getting the welterweight title is a hell of a legacy to have.
What's more important to fans, Javier Mendez has recently spoken about the possible future of Islam Makhachev after his move to welterweight. Mendez addressed when Umar Nurmagomedov stated that Hunter Campbell met with Dagestan and was urging Islam to take the leap up to 170, maybe to free up the lightweight division for names like Ilia Topuria, although Islam wanted to keep his lightweight championship and said he does not want to vacate anything.
Hey, I was going to ask you, man, I saw there was an interview with Umar where he sort of spoke a little bit about Hunter Campbell, how he came down and visited Islam and sort of talked him into moving up, and how Umar believes they will actually see Islam come back down and potentially fight. Here's a quote here from him where he believes that Hunter went up and they wanted to get Topuria the opportunity to become the champion at lightweight, but Islam didn't want to give up his belt and that he would like to return to 155 to hold both belts. What do you think? Do you think that there's a chance we might actually see Islam potentially come back down to lightweight after capturing this welterweight belt? Or do you think that's it for him and he's just going to be focusing on the 170 division?
It is possible that he may want to do that. I don't really know. If we can manage to get by Jack, and the situation arises where they want him to fight the Topuria, if he's the champ, then let's see what happens. But I don't know. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out because we're all playing what if with this, that.
Javier says maybe he is one of the few who believe that Islam could go back to 1555 after winning the welterweight belt. But there are a lot of what ifs, like if Islam beats Jack Della Maddalena, if Topuria is a lightweight champ, etc. So nothing is guaranteed. Mendez made clear that they are taking it one step at a time. When it comes to a fight with Kamaru Usman, Mendez confirmed that Islam is not deterred to stand and bang with Jack Della Maddalena and will be ready for whatever fight comes his way next. The idea of Usman versus Makhachev is fun, but Mendez reminds us that they will be strategically choosing Islam's remaining fights as he achieves his legacy. Kamaru Usman had an impressive performance, reminding everyone why he's still one of the best fighters in the world and one of the greatest ever. However, he recognized that he is at a point in his career where fans should appreciate that the number of appearances he has left is limited.
Performance was amazing tonight. Still one of the best in the world, one of the best to ever do it, but I do feel we're at a stage now where we should be appreciating the few appearances you might have left in your career. So with that said, title shot would appear to be the thing on your mind next, right?
Absolutely. Like I said, I only had to really use one skill tonight. And, I possess, everyone knows I can knock you out with my hands. But if you're going to give me that, I'm going to take it.
When asked about what was next, Usman revealed that a title shot is most definitely on his mind. He mentioned that he has power, that he has versatility, and that he only needed to use one skill to win, but he was also clear that he can knock anyone out if given the chance. Usman mentioned that he is one of the biggest fighters in the division and in the UFC, and added that since the UFC is an entertainment company, the biggest fight is Usman versus the winner of Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. He emphasized that if it's Islam, it would be a blockbuster fight with two former current pound-for-pound stars, and a fight that fans want too.
You know, so you know, let's be honest, I'm the biggest in the division. You know, and this is about entertainment. The UFC is an entertainment company. You want to make the biggest fight, it's going to be the winner of JDM and Islam. You know, if Islam pulls that one out, former pound for pound, current pound for pound, who doesn't pay for that?
DC said fans will demand more fights from Islam Makhachev, especially the big noteworthy fights. He imagined that as time goes on and Islam continues to be dominant and climbs the ranks, the fans won't just want to see him defend his title quietly. They will want to see him against the best and biggest names out there. The fans will want to see big fights against major names like Jack Della Maddalena, Kamaru Usman, Ilia Topuria, etc. However, if Islam keeps fighting and winning, those demands of the fans will get louder and louder because they will want to see the very best prove they can stay at the top and cement their legacy.
Why, when you're in your mid-30s, are you looking to kind of walk away from the game that you are dominating? We saw Habib do it, and he never looked back. He never looked back after he left the UFC. That should be worrisome to us as mixed martial arts fans. That if that's the case, it's a problem. We have so many more fights that we want these guys to fight. We want to see him against Jack Della. We want to see him against Usman, and we want to see him against Ilia Topuria.
Daniel Cormier also has a heartfelt message for fans. Enjoy the fighters while you can. You don't have them forever. He stressed that Islam Makhachev has some huge can't-miss fights coming up. And again, we want the hope that Islam sticks around long enough to fight them all. It is a small reminder to enjoy these athletes while they're performing at the top of their game.
Justin Gaethje said yesterday, if he doesn't get a title fight, he's done. That's crazy. And that's sad. To all these fighters, or all these fight fans who have come during this era, which to me has been as golden an era as the UFC has ever had, in terms of the star power, in terms of the fight quality, in terms of the skill level of these guys that use that octagon to prove their points, show their worth, and honestly make their living. It has been a very, very good time for the entire UFC having those guys.
Lastly, Joe Rogan believes this is one of the most thrilling and important times in UFC history, and one of the most significant times in MMA history. MMA is entering one of the wildest, most exciting new eras, with young fighters stepping into the cage and instantly looking like world-class competitors. You can look at Ilia Topuria and knock out two of the greatest featherweights ever, something that had never been done before, and he made it seem effortless. New fighters come up with higher levels of skill from the jump and more aggression. He reiterated that the UFC is going to be even crazier than it is now in the next 5 years.
You know, this is an amazing time for the sport, man. It's a crazy time because these guys that are coming in with like one fight in the UFC, they look like world-class contenders, like right away.
Yeah. Islam Makhachev's next major fight will likely be against Jack Della Maddalena, perhaps happening late fall or early winter in a big venue like Madison Square Garden or a significant Vegas pay-per-view. Whether it is at 170 or 165 pounds, it is an important fight for Islam, whose goal is to win the welterweight title and gain the distinction of a rare double champion. Should Islam win, his next two fights could be huge showdowns against Kamaru Usman or Ilia Topuria. Two difficult tests to help his legacy at 170. What do you think? Will Islam dominate welterweight and stay there? Or will he return to lightweight to defend his title? Who do you want to see Islam fight next after Jack Della Maddalena, Kamaru Usman, or Ilia Topuria? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you want to see Islam fight next? Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Islam's upcoming fights and what might be next for him, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more MMA updates and analysis.